the fact of the day is another crash, which impacts heavily the GC. If you look at the GC today, where it stands, it's two big crashes who have made the crashes in the gravel stage and today's stage that have impacted the GC, and the majority of, the bulk of the wins and losses in time come from those two stages and those two crashes. So that's unfortunate, but that's part of bike racing.
Everybody, welcome back to the Move Plus. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel, and we are breaking down stage 14 of the Giro d'Italia before predicting tomorrow's stage 15. Before we do that, let's walk through what happened early in today's stage. It was a 195-kilometer stage. I thought would be a routine, boring one from the Pope Plain of Italy into the light hills of Slovenia. That we might get a little just routine bunch sprint, but no. The day started off odd. There was a big super breakaway with Wout van Aert, Kasper Asgreen, a bunch of other really strong riders up there. Of course, the teams like Toro and VF Bardiani, who missed it, didn't like that, chased it down. It was a frantic chase. They finally get caught. Kasper Asgreen goes clear again, this time with a smaller group of, you'd say, like more routine breakawayist, like Mirko Mastrati on Polti Visit Malta.
Mirko
Maestri. And then what's this last
Marucelli
Marucelli on VF Group Bardiani. And they never really got much of a gap, Johan. They were just being held at about a minute and a half. And I thought, well, this is it. This is over. Then it starts to rain. Then they get into this little finishing circuit, and you texted me, this could get a little sketchy. And right after you texted me that, there's a crash in the group, right at the front of the group. And a lot of GC riders are caught up in it. Isaac Del Toro and Richard Carapaz are at the front. They jump back into the lead group, which I guess Visma got through almost unscathed. They don't miss a beat because they have Olaf Koy. They've been chasing all day. They want to get to that finish line and contest the sprint. But Primož Roglič, Juan Ayuso, and a bunch of other GC contenders takes them longer to get up. They're now in a chase group. And then we have the Visma group with Del Toro chasing the breakaway, which is soon just to be Kasper Asgreen, because he drops everybody else. And then you have the Roglič, Juan Ayuso group chasing them. And then behind them, you have the Antonio Tiberi group chasing the Roglič group. So we have multiple pursuits going on. What happens is the Visma group runs out of riders. And as soon as they do that, the chase loses some juice. Asgreen holds on for a really incredible stage win, like super impressive stage win. He was actually gaining time in the final kilometers. I thought he had no chance in the middle of that stage. Juan Ayuso loses time to his teammate, Isaac Del Toro, in the race lead, who just keeps gaining time every day. It's becoming actually quite impressive how much time this guy can gain on seemingly innocuous stages. And Primož Roglič loses time with Juan Ayuso. But before we get into the GC stuff and the crashes and whatnot, Johan, let's talk about Kasper Asgreen for a second. His first win since 2023. I actually just saw a thread on Reddit. It's like, what happened to breakaways and Grand Tours? Like, we haven't had one since Asgreen did it in the Tour de France a few years ago. But this was vintage breakaway. Didn't have much of a gap. Like, how did they hold on? Like, I guess they got lucky with the crash, but still, like.
Yeah, well, lucky. A guy like Asgreen, it's true. He won his last stage in 2023. If I'm not mistaken, it was a stage in the Tour de France. Also, hit or miss at the last moment. He won from a sprint, but a rider like that, from that kind of caliber, you can never really write them off. When they have their day, they're able to do some incredible things. And today was one of them. Today was a stage win in real Asgreen fashion. Purely, he was the motor of those three guys. He did the majority of the work. You could say, well, the crash contributed a bit. I don't think so, actually, because, they also had to be careful, the three guys in front. It was also sketchy through those corners on the circuit. And as soon as the crash happened, Visma went to the front, and they were at the front. It was clear that their goal was to try to win the stage with Olaf Koy. And of course, they didn't look back. There was only Groves who was there from all the other sprinters. Plus, they had Simon Yates, and they were already on their mission. It's not like the race was full on. It's not like they took advantage of the crash. They were doing already what they were doing. So I've seen some debates on social media. Well, they shouldn't have done this. They should have waited. No, I think they did what they had to do. There's absolutely no blame on Visma at all. But yeah, I mean, Asgreen today was, as you say, vintage Asgreen. It's been a while. But today was, he's a huge engine. He looked great. He's probably also pretty good in the bad weather. It was not extremely bad weather, but I saw a lot of guys with rain jackets on at the beginning of the stage. Or in the middle of the stage. So, it was not hot. This was a perfect stage for him. At the end, he was motoring. I mean, he was taking time on a guy like Wout van Aert, and then at the end, even Simon Yates himself had to pull for Olaf Koy because he was the only guy left, and he kept gaining time after having been in the breakaway the whole stage. So hats off to him. Was an incredible stage win for Asgreen. Long time since he hadn't won, but once in a while these guys pull off something incredible. Today was one of those days.
His last 3 World Tour wins are Giro d'Italia stage, Tour de France stage, Tour of Flanders.
Let's not forget, Spencer. Let's not forget this guy beat Mathieu van der Poel in a one-on-one sprint in the Tour of Flanders, and I guess it was 2021, right? So it's 4 years ago. But still, this was already more or less prime Mathieu van der Poel back then. And because I think Van der Poel had won already the Tour of Flanders that year, the year before.
Defending champion, yeah.
Yeah. And Asgreen also was second in the Tour of Flanders another year. He's still a great rider. It's just, we just would like to see him a little bit more consistent, but today he had a great day and deserved that win.
Well, yeah, he's clear because he's clearly great. Like, you don't do what he did today. As you said, Wout van Aert was pulling as hard as he could to the point that, he blew up and he wasn't really bringing back Asgreen. I think he rode him off. Like, he kind of was on the descent and he just rode the other two off his wheel with 6K to go, 14-second gap. You think, well, 6K to go, 14 seconds. I don't know if that's enough. But the weird thing is this gap wasn't coming down in a linear fashion. I'm just looking back now with, 45K to go, it's a minute 22. And then it starts dropping fast to the point where it's down to 45 seconds with 30K to go. But then by the time the crash occurs and it's at 54 seconds. So it's going back up and then it's coming down fast, but then it doesn't stay down. And I wonder if Visma was even getting concerned before the crash, that they were that's why they were at the front. And that's why they didn't even pause when the crash happened. Cause we got to get this guy cause we might not get him. And if you noticed, he was wearing an aero helmet, like a super aero helmet. So clearly this was a plan they had.
Yeah. They were definitely prepared for this. That's for sure. Yeah, I saw a message somewhere from what was the sport director. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I mean, and it said, okay, this is the plan. It was a message he sent to the team. This is the plan. I've motivated Kasper. I think he can go in the break. There's not a lot of wind. The teams will not chase too hard, and he can pull it off at the end. So they had this plan from the start.
And I'm sure they even looked at the circuit and thought there's a possibility this isn't clean.
Yeah. I mean, the circuit, of course, these are circumstances, right? The weather, you can't predict this, but this was dangerous, Spencer. I mean, remember, I sent you a message. Hey, this is going to be tricky. I literally I think you just got the text and there they went on the floor, so I think this is obviously, a part of the great victory of Kasper Asgreen. The fact of the day is another crash, which impacts heavily the GC. If you look at the GC today, where it stands, it's two big crashes who have made the crashes in the gravel stage and today's stage that have impacted the GC, and the majority of, the bulk of the wins and losses in time come from those two stages and those two crashes. So that's unfortunate, but that's part of bike racing. And we have to say that a guy like Del Toro, as young as he may be, he is racing like an experienced veteran. He's always where he has to be. He's always in good position. Now, talking about the crash, Spencer, I would like to make a little pause here and look at this picture, which I've screenshotted. It's not high definition, but if you look at the picture, this is the moment of the crash. And you see the two guys with the green circle. So the one on top is Isaac Del Toro in pink. The one next to him is Richard Carapaz. Those two are the GC riders plus Simon Yates, who made it in the front group. So they were stopped, but they were not on the ground and they could move forward. The two guys in the red circle, the one to the right is Egan Bernal. He's on the floor and his bike is somewhere there in between. And then the other guy is on the floor and his bike is nowhere to be seen. That's Primož Roglič. So those two guys, and then we have Juan Ayuso, who's not in the picture, but he must have been behind these guys, so also couldn't pass. So, it was based on pure luck also, because the crash happened really in the front of the peloton. I think it was the little Trek guys who went down. I've been told that 7 of the 8 riders of Little Trek were on the floor. The only one who didn't crash was Carlos Verona. Unfortunately, Ciccone was quite damaged, and we'll see what the damage is finally. But I fear that with tomorrow's stage, especially, that I don't know if he's going to make it through tomorrow's stage, if he even gets at the start. So that's unfortunate. Mats Pedersen went down, wasn't too badly hurt, I think. But it was completely in the front of the peloton. And, if you see courses like this, as I said, it's when it's flattened cobbles and it rains, that's the worst, Spencer. That's like ice skating. I actually think, like real cobbles, like more rounded cobbles, or sometimes in these cases better, because the guys have to go slower. These flat cobbles, it feels like normal pavement, but it's just extremely slippery. And then, the question is, I've seen a quote from Wout van Aert, who said, some teams need to step back and think about what they're doing. They're taking too many risks. It's easy to say that if you're in the front and you are you're driving the pace at that moment. But the GC teams have to be in the front. They all need to fight for position, because there was, what was it, 25K to go, 24K to go. It's normal that they try to be in the front. So there's only that much space. And it was completely in the front of the peloton. So there was really nowhere you could go. It was a question of pure luck. And Del Toro and Carapaz and Simon Yates made it to the front. Those are, I think, the 3 GC guys of any relevance. And then Roglič and Bernal and Ayuso and Tiberi lost real valuable time. Tiberi most of all. He was not even with Roglič and Bernal and Ayuso. So he can forget about his GC. I think he lost a minute 40, I guess, today.
Minute 44, I believe. And then the rest of them lost 48 seconds. You also forgot my guy, Derek G, who was in that front group, who now moves up into...
Yeah. Sorry.
6th place. Watch out for G, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if we need to give everyone the information. Yeah. So they lost 48 seconds. Tiberi lost 144, I believe. was this a bad day or good day for UAE?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have Del Toro extend his lead. Ayuso loses time to Del Toro, but in theory, they don't care about that. And then really only loses time to Simon Yates and Richard Carapaz, and I guess Derek G. Is that necessarily that bad?
I don't think, I mean, on Spanish TV, they were debating and they were saying, yeah, it's a bad day for UAE. I don't think so. And I actually think that, if you look at what happened during the stage, you have at some point, you have three groups. Yeah, you have the front group. I mean, you have the breakaway. Then you have the group with Del Toro and Simon Yates and Carapaz. Then you have the group Bernal, Ayuso, Roglič. And then behind that, there's another group with 3-4 UAE guys, at least three UAE guys who were chasing. The moment those two groups get together, group 2 and 3, so then Ayuso has three teammates. At no point did they go to the front and started to chase, which means to me that UAE has the confidence in Del Toro compared to the guys like Simon Yates and Carapaz and Derek G. They have the confidence in them, and Ayuso stays equal with the big favorite from before at the beginning of this Giro, Primož Roglič. So I think it's a good day. They don't seem to have any damage from the crash. The pink jersey extends his lead to the big favorites, and Ayuso and Roglič are status quo. I think it's a good day for them.
Yeah, and if Ayuso can't make up 6 seconds, Simon Yates wins this Giro because Del Toro collapses and Ayuso can't make up 6 seconds on him, that's a bigger problem. And then if Carapaz, who is now roughly 30 seconds behind him, 31 seconds maybe, if he overtakes him, then he's being overtaken by more than just Carapaz. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it is a good position. I mean, I don't know how deep we wanted to get into this right now, but right now it looks like it's like, well, this race is over. Del Toro has it. But but he has lost time in both time trials, which I feel like is not insignificant. He's really gained time, as you said, on crashes, which is because he's very good at positioning.
And positioning. Yeah.
Positioning, time bonuses. But so far at this Giro, just to highlight how much this Giro has even yet to begun, we haven't had a single stage with more than 3,900 feet of climbing.
Meters,
yeah. That would be a flat race. Starting on Tuesday, we only have one stage with less than 3,800 feet of, two stages. One stage with less than 3,800 meters of climbing and multiple stages of 4,400 and more meters of climbing. Isaac Del Toro, in his entire career, has only raced over 4,000 meters in a World Tour race, and gained more than 4,000 meters in a World Tour race 3 times in his career. Mm-hmm. And one of those, he got 6th in a breakaway at the Vuelta a España where he got dropped, but he was probably sick with COVID. Yeah, so it's kind of a bad.
I don't think we can take that as a standard, Spencer. This guy, he's completely capable of doing this. If he loses the pink jersey, it's going to be because he cracks completely. Every day, it's a day less. Every day, it's a day closer to Rome. And he has not shown too much weakness for the moment. So, yeah,
he's not shown weakness, but it is a unique Giro in that the stages that we've had almost don't even resemble the same sport as the stages we will have. Like no stages I've ever seen a Grand Tour like this. Yeah,
that's true. There's 4 extreme hard mountain stages. Starting actually tomorrow already. Tomorrow is also a hard stage. It's not a mountaintop finish, but it's already hard. And we have accumulated fatigue by now. 2 weeks of racing. So tomorrow we'll see a different game already. Although maybe not decisive. Not decisive. I don't think so. But I mean, it's a cliche, but I would say the real Giro still has to start. The riders will hate to hear that, but
and I hate that. I hate that like so much. It's like, well, okay, sure, but in this case, it actually is kind of true. Like this is a really bifurcated Grand Tour. It's wild. If you just go look at the profiles and you really look at these stages, they're so different than the stages we've had. And it's almost sleight of hand because we've had some climbing, but then you start to look at the climbs and you're like, well, they don't really resemble the climbs that we have to come. Even like once we get to the north, we rise up like literally in elevation, and then everything changes when you're doing multiple, you do 4 or 5 first category climbs in a single day. It's with no flat in between and not so easy. Couple questions for you.
One thing I also want to point out, Spencer, we've had different scenarios of riders who were in a position that they were behind Roglič, Bernal, Tiberi, mainly these 3, and I've seen that they had teammates around them, and they, I'm of the point of view that a leader, when he's in a situation like this, when it's really, either you come back or you lose too much time, the leader also has to pull. It's not just your teammates who pull and you're sitting in 3rd or 4th position, and then you start to pull whenever your teammates blow up. Your teammates are not going to close the gap, so they need help because they're going to ride until they blow up, and at most, they're going to maintain the gap. So in order to decrease the gap, the leader has to pull. And I've not seen, Roglič, they didn't show too much footage of the pursuit, right? But I've seen the teammates of Roglič pull, the teammates of Bernal pull, Tiberi with 3 teammates. But these guys only started pulling when their teammates were gone. That's never going to work. You can't then all of a sudden, unless they get you to the bottom of a climb and you fly up that climb and you close the gap, but that's different. But this today was not the case. So I think they often make the mistake to not collaborate with their teammates and contribute to the chase. It's not because, you can't just stay there in the wheel until they blow up. You have to help them. And I haven't seen that today.
Thinking about that when I was watching it, because in theory, the leader is the strongest rider in the group, you would imagine. Yeah. In a group of teammates, the leader should be the strongest. And if your teammates are rotating through, but then Wout van Aert is pulling in the group ahead, they're not going to be faster than Wout van Aert probably. They're at best the same speed. So you need the strongest guy to actually come forward to start chopping.
Yeah, and at least, and the leader doesn't even have to go 100%, because if his teammates are pulling 100%, he's at 80%. He's still going to come true.
Yeah. I was curious about that, Johan. Thanks for mentioning it. Also, where would Roglič be without Giulio Pellizzari? Speaking of teammates pulling,
this guy saved today Tratnik was back. Maybe it was because in Slovenia. By the way, Spencer, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, we made a mistake yesterday. We mentioned the mountain bike World Cup race in Novo Mesto. There's actually 2 Novo Mestos. This one is in Czech Republic.
Okay, yeah,
there's 2. There is
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so there is. It's not in Slovenia, the mountain bike. It's in Czech Republic. When I googled Novo Mesto, the first thing that showed up was Slovenia. But some, attentive listeners or viewers of our podcast have mentioned in the comments that it's in Czech Republic. So apologies for that. And also, Mathieu van der Poel didn't race today the short track because he's not qualified. He doesn't have points. He can only race tomorrow. So,
yeah, I saw another rider.
I wanted to correct that. Yeah,
didn't race today because they didn't have the points. I didn't know that was so restricted. But Christopher Blevins, an American, won the short track.
Yeah, very impressive. Very impressive.
Puck won the women's short track, I believe.
Okay, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
I'm sorry for the spoilers on the short track, but if you're saving your day around the short track, I apologize. But I think that's it on today, right? It really sets the stage for. It's unfortunate. It kind of sets an interesting stage though for the rest of this race.
Yeah, but I think listen, it's great for Del Toro, but it's still wide open. Especially we just now in the preparing the podcast, we've previewed a little bit some of the stages to come, and we have not seen anything compared to what they still have to go over. These multi climb stages with 4 or 5 climbs, that's horrible. It's really, really hard.
I mean, Del Toro is going into a situation where like even just the raw climbing vertical, like he won't have done I guess he's done one stage that's 5,000 meters of climbing, stage 20 of the Vuelta last year. But just being in uncharted territory like that probably isn't ideal if you're trying to defend a.
Well, there's not. I keep the pressure's not on him. I mean, if he leaves the jersey, everybody's gonna say, "Hey, man, great job. You did amazing." It's not like the pressure's on him. So this guy can climb, Spencer. Okay, it was Tour de l'Avenir, but man, the way I saw him climb there, that was impressive in the last stage, and it was a hard climb. I don't remember the name of the climb. It was in the Alps, I think. But he destroyed the field there.
I guess you can't dispute. Of course, he can climb, but then it's like situational climbing. Like, it's like, how long was that stage would be, or like what was the normalized power going into that final climb? Like, once you start, there's a reason 21-year-olds so rarely win Grand Tours.
But what, Spencer? I'm pretty sure that Del Toro right now in this Giro, he's breaking all of his records. He's breaking all of his power, his best power day by day. I'm pretty sure of that.
I mean, yesterday was probably his top 1 minute power. If I had to guess. Speaking of yesterday, Spencer, another listener of our podcast mentioned that before, I don't know if before this Giro or in the preparation of the season, that Mats Pedersen broke his personal record 1 minute power, 1,000 watts for 1 minute. Wait, what?
1,000 watts for 1 minute.
Jesus. Wow.
There you
Holy
go.
Smokes. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's why he won that stage yesterday.
Exactly.
That explains it. That's a lot. That's a lot of power. My God.
Yeah.
1,000 watts for a minute. Whoa. But I guess it kind of makes sense now that I hear it, considering how much better he was than everybody else on that finish. But let's take a quick ad break and then we'll talk about tomorrow's stage 15. Okay, Johan. So stage 15, as you said, this is the beginning of the end game. We dip our toes a little amuse-bouche into that, where I guess you would call it like pre-Alps. If you've ever been to Monte Grappa, it's silly to call it a foothill, but it kind of is. Like, it's functionally just like right at the plain. Very hard climb though, but they get about 100K of, they're back in like the rolling Veneto landscape. It's a 220 kilometer stage though. So this is like real Giro distance. They do Monte Grappa, which is 25K long at 5.7% average. Not the steepest climb because it's the easy ascent, I guess, but that is very long. That's a lot of kilojoules in your legs. Then they descend down the other side, a little valley, and then they start climbing again, 16.6K at 5.3%. Again, not crazy steep, but there's a bonus second sprint in the middle of the climb, which will complicate it. And then they have this rolling kind of plateau into Asiago. If you remember, I believe it was a 2017 Giro. They came here late in the race, the year that Tom Dumoulin won, and it was a GC group finishing together, if I'm remembering correctly. But I'll list off the favorites on Unibet, and then we'll get your take on who's going to win. The favorite, Isaac Del Toro plus 600, Pello Bilbao plus 1,100, Tom Pidcock plus 1,400, Roman Bardet plus 1,600, Wout Poels plus 1,600, Giulio Ciccone plus 2,000, Luke Platt plus 2,000, Max Poole plus 2,500, Christian Scaroni plus 2,800, Mateusz Wadzek, who I don't think is going to win, plus 2,800, but it goes on and on. We'll list them if we need to. How's this going to play out, Johan? GC or breakaway, and who's going to win?
Yeah, difficult choice. That last climb, Spencer, I think it's a lot more difficult than we expect. I've watched the map a little bit. There's a lot of switchbacks. So switchbacks usually is never good news. It's 16 kilometers, more or less 6% average, I would say. I expect a breakaway, and then it depends how far the breakaway is ahead. I also expect some people in the GC group who will try. One of them being Egan Bernal, because he's tried at every single stage. There was an opportunity. I still going to go for, and also Spencer, it's the day before the rest day. So I think some of the GC guys may actually give it a try, you never know. I'm still going to go for breakaway though. And my pick tomorrow to win from the breakaway is Wout Poels. He's plus 1,600. It's another experienced guy who knows how to go in breakaways, how to manage his effort in breakaways, and then pull it off with a stage win. That's plus 1,600. I think that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I'm split on if this is GC or not. Like the last time, as I said, the last time they mentioned the last time they finished here, or at least the last time I remember them finishing here, it was a GC group. But yeah, Wout Poels, I could see this being, because if UAE doesn't want this to be a GC day, I assume, because they're happy, they got to be happy with that lead that Del Toro has. So if they don't want it to be a GC day, I don't think anyone else is going to take it up and force that issue. So Wout Poels is a good pick. But I'm going to go with someone who's looked really good lately and finished in that first chase group today, Romain Bardet, plus 1,600, same price as Wout Poels. I kind of hate to invoke this, but it's like, it's his last Grand Tour. Because it's like, yeah, sure, I'm sure he's wanted to win a stage in every Grand Tour he's ever done. Like, it's not like it's my last one, so I got to win now. But he will be very motivated. He looks very fit, more importantly, and I think he could win this stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was also one of the two last guys with Vacek. Yeah, was it? Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. So
yesterday. Yeah.
He's starting to have good legs in this Giro. Yeah, I think that's a good choice. My second pick will be a guy from the GC group, and especially because of the price. But I could see a battle between GC guys coming back together and a late attack of Richard Carapaz. He's plus 5,000 for the win. So I think it's worth a shot. It would be another EF win and the second stage win for Carapaz in this Giro, but I think he has the legs to do it.
And it would kind of serve dual purposes because he's, still got to be thinking overall podium, even win. And, he's 207 back. He'd get to take time. It kind of, you look at the finish, it is kind of Carapaz-y. It's rolling, and then the last 3K are kind of downhill, but it's a flat final K. There's a little few launch pads. Like, you could see it get weird, actually. Like, if he launches again, like, what does UA do?
And also EF must be on a high. Two stage wins already. Those two stage wins already. Carapaz obviously is getting in the game. He has good legs. So I think that's worth a bet.
And in the same vein, like you could see this stage hard for a breakaway to get away because it's flat, it's pegged back. They don't get enough of a gap. Riders do have to, like, the GC has to open up at some point because we are running out of stages. As you say, the days are ticking down to Rome. So if people get frisky, they want to take that lead from Del Toro. If they force the issue, it could be a GC day. I think, though, that would be a mistake because I think if it's a GC group at the finish, I think Isaac Del Toro plus 600 wins. So he would be my wild card to win if they do bring the GC group to the finish because he's so fast. I mean, he's like so much more powerful than the rest of these GC guys, like we saw yesterday.
Yeah, he's punchy. He has this acceleration. Even today, Spencer, if you look at where he was, we could see it on the picture we showed before. Where he was stopped, had to go through, and then the way he came back to that group, because Visma did not hesitate for a second, they kept going, and straight away he was in the front of the group. So he must have he has a big acceleration.
And so, any other thoughts on tomorrow, Johan?
No, that's it. I mean, what's the weather like? I hope they stay dry and they can race, without having to take too many risks because, mountain stages with bad weather, that's never fun.
It's kind of been a tough one because it says a 20% chance of precipitation. I believe today was 40%, but like there was a lot of the day where they weren't getting rained on, Yeah. And then there was day where the part of the day where they were, and then it was wet where they crashed. So, I mean, especially this part of the world, this time of year, it can be rainy, it can be dry, like all in the same hour. So you never really can be sure it's not going to rain. Yeah. And then just programming note, we will not have a show right after tomorrow's stage. We will have a show coming out on the rest day on Monday, though. And then we'll be back as normal on Tuesday when the race gets really interesting.
Okay. Thanks, Spencer.
All right. Thanks, Johan. Talk to you soon.